Rules live stream. I am your host, Lev Polyakov at LevPo on Twitter, and we are here joined by the great and powerful meme analysis. It's been a while, and we are joined by the powerful Michael Scotto, master astrologer, all the way from Hong Kong. And today it's morning there in Hong Kong, and today we are going to be talking about the coming Age of Aquarius. Are all of these ages, are they memes as well? We are going to get into all of that. Before we do, make sure to click that subscribe button. No, smash that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button, smash the bell, smash everything in sight. And also patreon.com/breaktherules. There is going to be a stream coming up about the secrets of Scientology, and it is tomorrow. And that's going to be with my friend Dodge. Drew Tang is coming in for that as well. We are going to be getting into it. So if you want to be a part of that, patreon.com/breaktherules. Become a patron today. And anyway, before we get started, one final thing is the Super Chat Astrology auction. So you see that little thing to your left? That is going to be the names of the people who are going to be submitting for getting their astrological reading done by Michael Scotto here. And the minimum is $20. And since it's an auction, if you submit more than 20, you get on the top of the list while we're having this conversation. So submit the supers, you are going to get the reading, and Meme Analysis is going to get the reading as well. So he's going to get it first. And let's get back to the original subject, which is the Age of Aquarius. And first, let me just ask Meme Analysis, what exactly is it about these ages, these equinoxes that occur during the period when the sun is in a certain position in relation to a sign of the constellations? What exactly is the metaphysical reason for it to be that way? Go ahead, brother. Let me know what you think.
Sure. So, when we look at astrology, we are looking at different scales of time. Now, usually, if you wear a watch or you look at a clock, you're only paying attention to solar time. You're paying attention to a singular cycle. Some people have, moon watches, moon phase watches. They pay attention to then a monthly cycle, a yearly cycle, and then all the various planets in astrology have varying cycles that they go through. But perhaps the largest and thus the most perhaps culturally significant, religiously significant cycle is the precession of the equinoxes, the aeonic precession, though it moves in reverse. The planets, the sun, the moon, they go, clockwise. And the aeons go backwards. So we are exiting Pisces and entering Aquarius. And then, before that was Aries. So another thing that I think is important just to clarify is that Aleister Crowley's aeonic system is not one-to-one with the zodiacal aeons. The zodiacal ages are necessarily about 2,000 years. The Crowley aeons can last really as long as they need to. There's not a set time.
Now, because the Earth is on a wobble, from what I understand, the technical time is going to be 2,150 years, right? That is the time of each precession.
So I don't know. I am not of the view that the astronomy is really that significant. I think weather and nature are far more significant. So I view Pisces beginning in zero. Pisces begins with Christ's birth and begins in 2000. It's not, I don't read it. So, because even if it's, the equinox happens at a certain point, it's fundamentally irrelevant to the human happening. Astrology to me is useful insofar as it is meaningful and effective. And we know that the precessions moving have changed the position of the zodiac. The zodiacal constellations are not in the place that they were when the signs and systems of astrology were put in place, but they still function because it is not celestial.
Interesting. I don't know, Michael, do you agree with the astronomy not really being linked as much with what exactly is going on, with people?
Uh, yeah, so I was gonna say, for those who are familiar with the author Dane Rudyard, who's kind of like one of those more esoteric authors on astrology. He has a book about secondary progressions, and he basically says in the book that the profession, the Age of Aquarius, actually hasn't arrived yet, or we are in a transitionary phase, because essentially there's not like 100% agreement about when you go from one age to another based on the moon cycles. So in his book, I believe he said 2047 was the beginning of the Age of Aquarius. So you can think of now as the end. Pisces is ending that Christ period. That's a very easy way to think of the meaning of the Age of Pisces. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Um, and then there's an in between phase where you're moving between Pisces and Aquarius, and you're getting, as I would say, just the beginning of Aquarius. Like, this is
Now,
just like chapter
mm,
zero, like when you open a book and like it's like the preview, like what's telling you what the book is about. So the
mhm.
Age of Aquarius, when it does hit, it's going to be quite strong.
It's also, Christianity does not take hold in zero. It takes a lot of time to develop it. And it's something that Crowley foresees that, it's going to take quite a long time to actually establish the systems. The motifs are already at play. And certainly since the 20th century, Pisces has been ending.
But what is it? Are we talking about something that human beings came up with? Are we talking about influences that are far higher than human beings go? What would you say?
Both. We're capable of making things that are far more powerful than us and that become autonomous.
That's interesting. I mean, that's kind of like that Rudolf Steiner idea of us giving life to whatever it is that we think about, or even certain things that we acknowledge in daily life. Like if we look at a plant or something, we're giving that plant more of an existence than otherwise. What that means in practice, I'm not sure. I know there's this interesting Jewish legend talking about that every time goon and then, jacket and all that kind of stuff, you have sex with one of those demon women, a succubi. And then in the end, when you go to the other world, the succubi shows you all of these demon children that you've spawned from this illicit intercourse. But then, from what I understand, they just show you those children, then you just leave, and then you go somewhere else. I don't know. It's kind of anticlimactic. I don't know. Is there more to that? I don't want to go too much off on the tangent there, but I am kind of curious.
I wouldn't say I'm particularly versed, but I mean, it's a fundamental aspect of my myth of the internet is my play on so in the Kabbalah, there is Yesod, which is the moon, which is the unconscious, and the inversion of it in the Qliphoth is the Gamaliel, which is Lilith and her children. And I view the internet largely as that, as a product of misdirected neurotic energy.
Well, we're definitely going to be getting into that when it comes to the Age of Aquarius. Now, when it comes to, I don't know, the Age of Pisces going into the Aquarius age, like you were talking about the Age of Pisces being Christianity, and Christianity having a certain significance when it comes to, I don't know, the level of piety, the level of sacrifice, and all of that. But at the same time, there were a lot of really bad things that were going on in Christianity as well. Like, for example, way into the 15th century, you would have the Spanish Inquisition. You would have Jews being tortured for not converting to Christianity by the Spaniards. So when we're talking 15th century, 16th century, and onwards, not to mention all the horrors that were going on, right in the 20th century, what do you personally make of that in connection to the age of Aries that came before the age of Pisces, and how long would that actually last?
The zodiac is not good. Like, the signs are not good. Their rulership means nothing about the prevalence of advancement or happiness in life. In fact, I would say oftentimes that the evil happenings in an aeon are far more typical than anything good. It's really just a matter of direction. As for Aries, so Aries, a warrior. This was the Iliad. This is really the aeon of the Iliad, the aeon of war, of empire. Great heroes. It was an aeon of heroes.
Men of renown.
That was really the point. And the god, because Aries is horned, of course. In I think 14 BC, the Greek god Pan, who remains in Rome, a traveling merchant he receives a voice from a god that says the great god Pan is dead, and the emperor Tiberius is told of this, and they launch an investigation and confirm that Pan is dead. Now, Pan is, of course, the god of everything. Pan is all. So the death of the horned god of everything immediately precedes the birth of the fisherman god of everything. So, yes, Aries was that.
Very interesting. Michael, any comments?
Sorry, I was just looking at meme analysis chart, and I was
We're gonna get into
some things that.
Yeah. Is it concurring to how meme analysis is right now, by the way? How he's talking, the kind of things that he's interested in? I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it right now, but just a little bit of a teaser for the people.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what's... I just noticed something interesting, yeah.
All right, so anyway, back to the Age of Aquarius here. First of all, we got Aquarius, the water bear. From what I understand, it's not even a water sign, it's an air sign, yet it utilizes water. Why is that? And then I definitely want to get into the splitting that happens. But once again, for all the people who are just tuning in, we are having a live super chat auction for astrology reading in the second part of the stream, so around in an hour or so. So if you want to get an astrology reading from Michael Scotto, submit it right now, $20 minimum. Anyway, meme analysis, go ahead.
Okay, so the water signs are water. They live in water, like crabs and snakes for Scorpio, and fish for Pisces. They live in water. But Aquarius is the water bearer. It is the directing of water. Not necessarily the water itself in the jar. It is the directing of it, which is air. Just like waves are made by blowing wind, that is the Aquarian force rather than the water itself. So Aquarius as water bearer, as water mover.
Interesting. In which directions is the water going to be moving? Oh, Michael, you have a thought.
I was just going to add, so typically we associate Aquarius with technology, right? And, the pot, the vase of the water is a technology to move water from here to over here. And if you think about the symbolism, think of how much of civilization was founded on irrigation. The idea that you have some body of water over here and you're able to move it to your city or town. That's in some ways, that's like the very most basic, most foundational part of civilization that allows civilization to kind of grow and prosper is the channeling of water, irrigation.
It's one of the few signs with man-made objects, like Libra, scales, and Sagittarius with a bow.
Yes. So in the zodiac, there's only pretty much all the signs are animals, minus the air signs, which are all man-made objects. And air has to do with intellect. So it's the intellect that allows him to make that vase and move the water.
So when it comes to the intellect, we have the splitting that you were talking to me at the party before about, where we have people either using that to go within or to go without. And I would love for you to expand on that. What exactly is the within part and the without part?
Yes, my vision of the Age of Aquarius, because Aquarius is two squiggly lines, two flows of water. One is spiritual. One is kind of this traditional new age hippy dippy way. We're all going to be one. We're all going to come together in peace and love and harmony. The other side is, we're going to overcome our bodies. We're going to get into space. We're going to be digital. We're going to be technology. The traditional symbol of Aquarius, at least during Christian times, was the angel. Of the cherubs, Aquarius is the man, the winged man. And I think in this aeon, he has so far been symbolized as an alien. So the technological development is the alien, and the New Age spirituality is the angel. And of course, both of these are not good. The going in, the going out, it really should just be going. It should be human, not angelic or alien.
So something that happened right when Pluto went to Aquarius is when we got those weird objects in the sky. And we don't know. The origin of them was never confirmed, by the way. The balloons or whatever that was that we shot down. I thought that was like within like a week or a month or something of Pluto going to Aquarius. I was like, okay. And then out of nowhere, we're getting all this UFO and alien stuff at the same time. And for me, I just kind of mark it for observation. Like, I'm not making a conclusion yet, but I'm like, okay, like if something happens with aliens, like this might be the time for something to happen.
Absolutely. This aeon to me is distinguished by aliens, real or not, but by the concept of aliens and space travel.
So when you say real or not, that's another discussion we were having where you do not believe that these are beings from other planets, but you do look at, for example, depictions of aliens. I mean, I know like the Tradcast talk about like, aliens or demons, stuff like that, but when you go down through the mythology looking at like the fairies, elves, imps, all these things, even I would say, visions of the Virgin Mary in the same locations where the ancestors of those people would have seen various kinds of fertility goddesses in the springs, it seems to me like all of these are entities that seem to reflect, like you were talking before about us giving life to ideas, they seem to reflect whatever things we associate with the otherworldly, where they really would not have any form if not for the forms that we would teach them to have in the first place. So like with the elves, I imagine that the inhabitants of the Nordic countries or, various parts of Europe, they probably wore pointy hats too at some point, and they probably wore similar outfits to the ones that they would have seen these elves and fairies wear, or maybe they saw nymphs with no outfits, just like a beautiful female body, but you know what a beautiful female body looks like. And same thing it seems like with Hinduism and Buddhism, where, for example, in some of the Tibetan Buddhist paintings, you have depictions of these dakinis, and they look like young Tibetan women. So when I think about certain experiences that people would have, like the Agori in India when they go into the funerary pyres and they would meditate on top of a dead body, and then they would experience seeing like this goddess of Kali, or the goddess known as Tara, and she would be depicted as this big, dark, blue woman carrying around scissors with like the decapitated heads of her victims. I would doubt that somebody who would be doing a similar kind of meditation technique in some other part of the world would see that particular entity. They would probably see something else. So what I am also curious about, not even so much about like the smaller, elves, fairies, various tricksterish entities, but when we're talking about big entities, when we're talking about either these people are all liars, when they're talking about how they got a wish granted by Kali to, teleport them back into their, room in New Delhi, and it's morning now and they woke up. Either they're just, BSing, or there are certain entities that are a lot more powerful. Now, they claim that these entities are like, Mahakala, the representation of ultimate time and destruction and all of that. So they are ranking these beings pretty high up there as far as like the beings that make up the core of our reality. That was a mouthful, but where would you put some of these beings as far as there being a hierarchy of how powerful and how influential they are over our lives?
Sure. So also, I just want to quickly state, like, I fundamentally disagree that people in other places would not have the same visions. We know that they do. Like, we know that there are a set number of archetypal visions of gods and goddesses that are had universally. The unique visual characteristics are like pretty fundamentally unimportant. The visual distinctions are really, really unimportant as compared with the significance, the meaning of these things, which are universal. Um, and this gets to the point of the explanation of why we think that aliens are from outer space. Also, just to go to loop back a little bit before we get into that, is just that aliens, angels, Christians are more right. They are more correct about aliens than the people who think that they live on other planets. They are certainly closer to what they call demons than they are to us, than they are to living bodies. But the mistake, and this is the mistake that's always made, is that we look back and we retroactively declare that our view of it was always the nature of it. This is like the great conceit of Christianity that, oh, all previous gods were demons. This is profoundly foolish. And it does, in fact, fall flat on its face because the church upholds astrology and ends up maintaining the pagan gods through it, which is why it remains the names of our days and our
Thor's Day and so on and so forth.
Freya's, Woden. Yeah. So, when you look at things like demonology and theurgy, you see, one of the major parts of magic is planetary dignities. Spirits are like emanations of the different planets, of the 7 planets. So angels, so like Michael is Mercury, Gabriel is the moon, and the various demons are of different planets. They are emanating from it. So it wouldn't surprise me if we had misunderstood a given alien saying, I'm from Venus or I'm from Mars. And we think, oh, well, they live on Mars. They are bodies like us that live on Mars, that fly down in little ships, when it's not that at all. They are of Mars. They are of the god Mars. And the ships and things like that are solely like PR. They're solely to make themselves believable to human beings who have now invented technology. They take on the face that's most convincing. It is a singular energetic phenomena that is not ours. We don't make it. It is, we feed it, but it is autonomous. It is unconscious, but autonomous. Unconscious in the largest way.
But that brings us to something that I've been wondering about when it comes to our position in existence. Because you look at the telescope showing all of these galaxies and clusters of galaxies, and it just looks so large, so vast. I cannot imagine that there would not be, if all of that is, not an illusion, I cannot imagine that there would not be somewhere where there would be some kind of life that's going on, maybe even similar to our own. But the other way of looking at it is that no, it actually is an illusion, and that the only real thing is the planet Earth, and then I guess, these planets that are around us and, the sun, but then everything else is just a projection that makes us feel like we are insignificant. I don't know. I'm thinking aloud here. Would that be close to your vision of events, or do you lean on the, maybe there is life on other planets, but it's just like way far away from us to even bother, talking about at this point?
Could I?
Yeah, Michael, what say you?
I think that the only thing that actually exists is consciousness. Like we always think about the body producing consciousness. It's the other way around, right? So, like the physical body is like very secondary. And therefore, whether it's humans or it's aliens or it's a cow, it's all the same thing. It's consciousness as it's projected through, a brain as a transceiver, if you want to think of it that way. And so, like, what's happening? Like, if I was to read like an aliens chart, some other intelligent beings chart, it's probably going to work for them as well, because it's not reading it's not like human astrology. It's consciousness astrology.
I think I understand what you're saying, but then if we imagine there being, I don't know, in the in another galaxy, some planet which will have its own constellations that it's going to look at, then those will be the constellations that will work for that particular planet.
Yeah. So okay, so people have astrology wrong, and we're gonna have to figure this out in the next 50 years, because people will be born on Mars, and it's gonna screw everything up, right? So, essentially, astrology, it's not the particular planets. Like, it's not like, okay, Jupiter and everything. Even if you live in like Alpha Centauri, is like you got to look at Jupiter. What astrology is, it's, if you think of the universe as subjective. So if I'm here and then something is here, right? The subjective relationship is I'm here and this thing is here. But if I'm over here, then the subjective relationship changes, right? So when we look at astrology, you always look at the planets relative to where you were born on the Earth at what time. So essentially, astrology is, it's like how do you say it? It's essentially like a snapshot of your subjective view in the universe at a point in time. So if we were at some other galaxy, we would look at the objects in that region, and we look at those objects in that region relative to where you were born there. And by the way, when we talk about the universe having meaning, it's not like our solar system has meaning and nothing else has any meaning. It's supposed to be the entire universe is a wrap of meaning and physicality together. So so what's the meaning in some other solar system, some other area? We don't know, obviously, but I'm sure that there's something there.
All right, meme analysis. Do you agree?
I think we are the point of existence. We are the current work of God and the spirits. The reality of life on other planets is pretty fundamentally irrelevant. I guess the funny thing that would come to mind is that it still has to be rendered, like a video game. It still has to be rendered. It's not there yet. Whether it's real or not, it's really unimportant. Our own development is really the only significant thing at the moment. And that an alien's chart also would need to. I also disagree. I don't think consciousness is that important. I think energy, which is not, it's unconscious. Energetics are not. Consciousness is like the human product. I don't think spirits are conscious. I don't think they have consciousness. I doubt that God has consciousness. Humans are the conscious product of energies.
Would you go? Real quick. Would you go against, for example, like in Hindu philosophy, they have the idea that the reason for existence is for oneness to experience itself in a dualistic fashion?
I think that is fair.
All right, but that means that something like consciousness, for example, that is the way that you would be able to experience something apart from yourself.
Yes, we are the conscious thing. It needs to create something conscious to experience the rest of it. The rest of it is the important thing. Our consciousness is secondary to what we are. Like that is kind of a pinnacle of human life, but it's not really the point, and it's certainly not what moves us.
All right, Michael, response?
Can you, I know that this is unanswerable, so I promise I'm not tricking you. Can you define energy, and can you define consciousness?
Sure. So consciousness being the experiential, the thing that is experiencing. Our consciousness is our experience of experience. The energies at play are the forces that manifest the things and people that we experience.
Does energy give to physical form?
Energy is what constitutes physical form.
Kind of like E equals MC squared, like something in that direction?
It's Taoist. It's simple. It's just Taoism.
Yeah, I'm into Taoism. I like the I Ching. The I Ching seems to be eerily correct, like down to the T. Whenever I think about something and ask it, it just literally says exactly what is related to my question. And whenever I find that, I gotta get the creeps, like how is this thing able to be so damn accurate? But anyway, that being
Well,
aside, yeah,
I'll just say a quick
okay.
thing that Michael said that is exactly how the I Ching and tarot work, which is the same as a chart. It's a snapshot of the time and space that one is in. That is the point. It's just like a photograph. It relies on light and chemicals to produce an image. Tarot and I Ching and the zodiac are sets of symbols, building blocks of symbols to produce pictures of time and space.
Any response? If not, we have a super chat from David Wertz over here. But also, I want to make sure it's in the description right now. The minimum for the super chat astrology reading is $20, but this is $12. Thank you very much, David. And I am going to say the super chat as well. So, how old is astrology? Is it older than writing? If it's an oral tradition, it could be tens of thousands of years old. Do we know its origins?
Good question. I mean, we don't know its origins, other than it seems that every ancient culture tends to keep recreating it one way or another. So, for example, I'm in Hong Kong, and there's Western astrology, there's Chinese astrology, and in India there's Vedic astrology, and a lot of cultures all around the world tend to keep recreating it, and that goes far back, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, but you could think, a lot of times, like for the ancients or prehistoric, I mean, what did they have to reference? That they had this mystery of the sky, so they look up and they see the moon, they see the sun, they see the stars. So for them, it was pretty fundamental to their existence.
It is pre-writing. It is prehistorical, because we have depictions of the sun and moon in the most ancient forms of art, and it has been associated with various animals and gender and all of that. So it's prehistorical. I think what one tends to hear is that Babylon and the Mesopotamians are some of the first to worship the stars and the planets, especially as a means of fortune telling. And I think they're in the Bible as Chaldeans.
Chaldeans, yeah. But as far as things like Göbekli Tepe goes, there's also interesting inscriptions in that site that was discovered in Turkey that was intentionally buried, which is alleged to be like probably older than 10,000, was it 10,000 years old or something like that? And of course, then we also have people like Graham Hancock and company talking about how when you're on top of the Sphinx, then you see the constellation of Leo like 14,000 years ago, as well as people like Robert Schoch talking about the date of the Sphinx, being around that time too. So at that point, it really starts to boggle the mind, because on one hand, we're not really finding a lot of these indicators that Atlantis existed and we had like these super advanced civilizations, but on the other hand, that you are able to tell the astrological alignments, especially like with the positions of the pyramid and all that stuff, so accurately. That does tell me that there was a degree of sophistication. But then I think, wait a minute, if it's so sophisticated, I doubt that they were like dressed like the Flintstones or something, like I would imagine that they would have been a lot more prim and proper. And then I start thinking about how Jason Trajani, for instance, talks about like these civilizer gods. I mean, he has a whole other way of looking at it as far as like where they come from, like he incorporates time travel and all that. But suffice to say, there is this mythology about like these tall beings who came to the earth, who gave us various technologies. And you could say like in the Bible and the Torah, they talk about, like the Watchers. They talk about these beings who came down, copulated with human women, created the Nephilim from there. So it's an interesting rabbit hole to go down into, but I am curious where you would place these particular beings in terms of this hierarchy of the spectral entities we were talking about earlier versus human beings.
They're spirits. They're, again, none of it is physical. That's what I mean. It is temporarily physical. These things can temporarily embody, but their essence, their nature is not material like us. This is, again, like this is a human problem, that we can only believe in something if it's a body. Does it bleed? We only want to believe in something if it bleeds. Part of why we like Christ so much. Part of why we like the old gods so much, because they could bleed, they could die.
If it bleeds, it leads.
So no, they are temporarily physical. They put on, again, the most believable show, but they are not physical entities. They don't come from other planets. It's not aliens. I also doubt that it's future humans.
Now, okay, so you were watching Giorgiani, so you know what I'm talking about there.
I'm familiar. I mean, that's like a theory that I'm very familiar with, and I do entertain it in my website. Like, that's a major element of my myth. I don't think it's true, but I think on a symbolic level it functions.
Now, I do want to get a little bit deeper with that answer you provided. What I've always been curious about is, okay, let's say you're teleported back in time and you get to meet these spectral entities. And let's say you bring a microscope with you, and then you just like take one of their arms and just like put the microscope down and just like focus in. What do you see?
Like Christ, what? Like, I see no reason why they wouldn't be able to constitute themselves perfectly.
By perfectly, you mean like having like germs and, various kind of DNA, things like that?
Christ was a person. Like, Christ was a human being for a time.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I guess when you put it that way, even our physical bodies are all matter when it comes down to it. What is it? It's just like protons, neutrons, electrons, and there's not really like something that we could say is like the physical thing, because like the lower you go, then you get into quarks. So I'm not sure if it's even fitting to call us physical. Like, where do you draw the line between what is physical and what is non-physical?
Blake has a great line, which is that the body is simply the portion of the soul discernible by the five senses.
Interesting. I like that. I mean, it does also kind of remind me of the Rudolf Steiner view as well, going back to him for a second, where he talks about this evolution of the physical human form, starting off with like simpler things that are more spectral in nature, more like emanating from ideas, and those ideas start getting solidified over time until you have something that resembles this very complicated, agreed upon form of the human being. And that's what I also find to be very fascinating about us. Like, we are very different from all the other animals in our presence. We don't really survive well in the wild. Like, we're not really adapted to any particular environment. It's more like we're the outsiders in that we could probably adapt to the environment, but that does not really seem to be our mission. We're never going to be as good as a gorilla when it comes to doing, like stomping things and being as strong. We're never going to be as fast as a cheetah. So that I think leads me to believe like there is a certain mission that we have for humanity. But before we get to that mission, I do want to go back to the Age of Aquarius and that splitting that you were talking about earlier, and look at the men and the women and what exactly they're going to be going through, which I think they've already started to go through now. So when we're talking about the men, we're talking about a lot of the men who are unable to find their anima in real life. So as you were stating in your really brilliant video about the Doomers and the e-girls, that they transfer that anima to the digital realm when it comes to anime, when it comes to, these persona of these e-girls. So where exactly do you see, doubling down into, this age of Aquarius, where exactly do you see men being? And then we're going to get to the women.
Nowhere. They're both going to the same place, which is androgyny. The biological gender divide is not going to survive for maybe 1,000 years. It'll be largely gone. That's my bet. In the future they can look back and affirm it. But no, this was the angels are not particularly gendered either. Spiritual things are generally not particularly gendered. The evolution of things is toward singularity and away from duality. Duality is primitive. Duality is, I think a lot of people forget that sexual reproduction was, sort of an evolutionary strategy. It's not the only way that things reproduce themselves. And of course, the subject of my channel, memes, the idea of, non-physical reproduction, I think is also going to become more and more important. But no, I think this is also why we see such a profound doubling down upon gender roles, upon sexuality, because it's in its death throes. We're in the death throes of masculinity, of male and female. We're in the death throes of this, and it's also not going to be. I highly doubt that it's going to be like surgical or directed by technology. I think it will be natural.
I like to agree and disagree on this point.
All right.
So firstly, anytime I had any vision of God, any psychedelic experience, it's always non-gendered. And if anything, I always saw God more as a woman, which is like the opposite that, Christ depicted and everything. But, for those of you familiar with the fourth turning, the 80 to 100 year cycle of the generations, and then the fourth turning, that's when everything goes crazy, like World War II or the Civil War, etc. He says in the book, so in the beginning of the 80 year or 100 year cycle, the genders are very defined, like in the 50s, you have the trad wife and all that. And then as you get later towards the cycle, the genders start to move together. And for example, in the 20s, the gender roles were much closer, right? But then after World War II, they split apart again. So what I'm basically describing is kind of like like where it's going, and it's kind of upward spiral, where we're coming to the period of this current fourth turning period where the genders are the closest they're going to be, or the most vague that they're going to be within this particular cycle. And then after the next crisis, they'll move apart again, and then there'll be another 100 years, and then they'll move close. But each time they're closer than they were the time before.
I think that's functioned up to this point in human history. I think gender might appear again in like 10,000 years or something. In another aeon, gender might reappear. But for the time being, I highly doubt it.
Well, I get this question related to that. When it comes to desires that we have, usually we do desire something that, we seek out that we can't really find in our immediate backyard, so to speak, which is why certain things end up complementing other things. But when everything just starts just looking like this, sameness, then it almost seems like the idea of yin-yang isn't there anymore. It almost seems like this seeking for something other than yourself is broken. So psychologically, what do you think is going to happen to people when everybody is just going to appear as they are? Like, what exactly is going to be the hero and the damsel in distress and whatever, like all of these ancient archetypes that we grew up with? What is going to be the point of somebody doing anything if they're not going to get a certain amount of satisfaction from having this complementary force in their life?
Well, think about the experience of like a pawn in chess. You can go ahead, and sometimes you can take a piece by going sideways, but you have an extraordinarily limited set of options, and that has been human existence. We've had extraordinarily limited options for what we are capable of. I think that tends to be the view that people have when they think about like a future androgyny. I see it more as there is more infinite variety. I don't think everybody's going to look the same at all. In fact, I think the point is really for greater individual expression. The soul, the non-gendered soul, will be the thing expressing itself through a body more directly. It will not be contained by, even the zodiac, I'd imagine, will take on, we will have a greater resilience to these kind of cosmic bonds, these cosmic limitations, which, if you read the ancient texts, is how astrology was viewed. Astrology is a trap made by the gods to limit human souls because they were greater than the gods. I think we are attempting to overcome those limitations.
But then there's the question, when you say greater than the gods. In Buddhism, for example, they have the various types of realms you can be reborn in. You can be reborn in the, gods full of pleasure, or the jealous gods, as well as, the hell beings and the hungry ghosts and, the animal realm. But when it comes to even, like the highest of the gods, the idea is that you end up getting so infatuated with how much you can do, with how much you could, accomplish in this, lofty form where whatever you imagine, comes true, that you don't want to exit samsara. So I'm very curious what your take is on that, because that's why the Buddhists talked about human beings being very special and probably the best form to be reincarnated in. So, yeah, let me know.
Buddhism is wrong, and we should not want to escape. Reality is good, life is good, and it's meant to be enjoyed.
Now, why do you think, if you were to be devil's advocate for a second, though, why would you think that they want to escape so much from this kind of life, as well as their view of attachment, for example, spawning even more fruits of one's karma? And now you got all this karmic debt. So, I don't know.
Life is painful, and that's good.
So if life is painful, though, then I guess I should say, end goal would be to become these, highfalutin gods and to experience the ability to create whatever you want. But then I guess the idea is that once you're there, the only way to go is down. And you kind of repeat the process over again. So would that be an accurate way of looking at it?
Yes, the cycle will continue, of course.
But then if we're talking about being gods, and that's already not being a human anymore, going back to what you said before, where you did say that the human form was something that you find to be the most important, can you clarify again why that is the case?
Because we have the most freedom. When we talk about the gods are on cycles as well. Much more strict and regimented than human cycles. And that is not fun. That's not what we want. We want that infinite variety, infinite freedom, which is what I mean when I say, the ideal and androgen evolved human being is capable of doing anything, of essentially, doing their will, of, imagine what, it's God with every color to play with, rather than just 12 or just 16. All of these typologies, these base typologies of human beings. It's not enough. It's like the color scale. I don't know how televisions, they use like those, and printers, these like dot matrices of a few colors, and they have illusions of colors, but it's not full color. It's not like life.
If I were to be devil's advocate, though, I would bring up how many absolutely brilliant films there were that were made in black and white, and the fact that we have like all this HD crap today. It doesn't matter if it's HD or not. What matters is that it by itself, with the technology, is made by people who have the ability to make many beautiful things, but in a way I think that also kind of limits them, because like with all this freedom of choice, for some reason we're just getting like a lot of repetition going on. And then I think, for example, the furry community, not to pick on them too much over here, but if you notice, one interesting thing about the furries is that they have very infantilized sense of color design. Like from all the colors, you get Photoshop, you get all of these tools, and you end up picking like these very bright, childlike colors, all these pastel colors when you design your fursona. So it's almost like the limitations end up strengthening our ability to be a little bit more pickier with what exactly we put on the palette. But when the palettes completely open up, in a way, like I think we start to devolve rather than evolve. But that's just my personal take. What do you think?
Everything that we've produced has been from a limited place. We don't have the palette that God has. That's just the way it is. So of course we do the best with what we can, but I don't think any artist until like when filmmakers were making those black and white films, they were wishing they could make color films. It's only when color film happens that we look back and think, oh, I really like those black and white movies. Something Brian Eno talks about, that the limitations of a medium are romanticized as soon as the medium is advanced past. So yes, I'm sure that in the future will be greatly romanticized. And, I'm sure that there'll be plenty of these androgyns who dress up, in blue jeans and sundresses to look like old-fashioned humans.
I mean, it's already happening. We're getting like the trad wives. We're getting all kinds of movements that are, seeking. Back then, there was even a Twitter post I recall talking about how the 1980s, they were inserting like the 1880s instead of the 1980s, because that it might as well be the same thing for a lot of these Zoomers. How far back you go, and there were, like these pretty aesthetics during that time. I mean, obviously, like you even go to Manhattan, you see all of these townhouses with the columns and with the moldings. I mean, you've been around them, so you get the vibe that emanates from them as opposed to just like a empty looking box, like these glass cubes, which again, it's like, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe we're just not equipped like the people back then were when it comes to making this. My architecture friend told me, like, we don't have people who know how to make this stuff anymore, or rather, like, if we did, we just have to pay them a lot of money. So
yes, we have a failure on the part of creators. It's not a failure on the part of our medium. The people are the failures.
But then that brings me to the point that you were talking about with this unleashing of the creative potential. The creative potential, I don't see it being unleashed from there being more tools to create with. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be something else.
The creators are the ones who are going to produce it.
But how, in your opinion, how is a creator forged?
Pain, largely, and stars.
All right, well, there we go. So who is going to, or what is going to bring the pain to allow these new creators to flourish? And are we already seeing it, perhaps?
Exactly the question to ask. Where's the new Messiah? Where are the new gods going to be born? Probably in America.
Well, Michael, you think China's got a better shot? I mean, you're in Hong Kong right now. I don't want you to get into some political situation here, that's going to force you to be kicked out of there. I don't know what the situation is. But if you can, give us your take when it comes to what you are personally experiencing with creativity, with the energy of Hong Kong.
That is a complicated question. I mean, I came here because I see two superpowers in the world. I see the West, I see the East. I was overinvested in the West, so I said, what's going on in the East? Let me go figure it out. And that's why I'm going to the business school here, and I'm having a lot of conversations with people who are. So Hong Kong is a place where you have mainland China's coming in, you have Southeast Asia, you have India. It's kind of like a melting pot of Asia, if you will. And yeah, I mean, I think I'll ask people in here, I'll ask them what they think about the West, and then I'll ask them what they think about China, etc. And I mean, I think it's an open question right now. There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of growth in the Asian region. And the Asian region includes not just China, right? So we're talking about Vietnam, we're talking about Thailand, Singapore. It's an entire region, right? And a lot of the things, when you talk about individuality, you talk about creativity, I could definitely say, although it's not in the same flavor or in the same potency as in the West, a lot of people here are curious to grow their individuality.
And me now, yeah.
And when you have over 1 billion people in this region, I mean, maybe the probability of any one given individual having high creativity is lower than in the West. But when you multiply by over 1 billion people, the weighted outcome becomes quite high.
Interesting. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of departing from our original subject, but I am interested now. Meme analysis, what do you think about the changes that are going to be occurring in the East as opposed to the West when it comes to creativity?
The same with gender. It's going to be unified.
Interesting.
East and West are not going to remain divided.
And what about something like any given aesthetic that's going to be dominating? So, for example, the anime aesthetic is dominating online. Is anime going to be real, in other words?
Anime is not really Eastern. Like it's an Eastern interpretation of a Western design. And right now it's not Western. It's like a universal. It's an internet. It's digital. It's a native digital art form at this point.
Well, we could also connect it to the aliens in a way. I mean, the big bulging eyes, like the neotenous heads. Do you also see a connection between the gray aliens and the anime girls?
We're in the aeon of the child. We're in the aeon of neoteny.
And is this in any way also connected to the ceremony that Aleister Crowley was doing with Jack Parsons, where they wanted to create the Moonchild?
No, see, that was what LRH did with
LRH. Sorry, I keep getting them confused.
Crowley thought they were being foolish.
Speaking of which, by the way, tomorrow I'm going to have a stream on the secrets of Scientology with Drew Tang and Dodge Landsman, so be sure to check that out. But anyway, so he thought that they were being foolish, but what exactly was the point of this ritual of creating this Moonchild in the Aeon of Horus? And is the Aeon of Horus equal to the Age of Aquarius?
They share the same origin. They both are coming into prominence, but the idea is that the Age of Horus is going to outlast Aquarius, probably by tens of thousands of years. Just like the Age of Isis and the Age of Osiris did not last just 2,000 years, the way that a zodiacal aeon does. As for the point of a Moonchild, I think one would, it's simply how Christ was produced, or how the Minotaur was produced, a god and a human being coming together to produce a demigod, a divine human. And that's the goal, the production of aeonic children.
And were these children already produced? I mean, I know that Giorgiani, for instance, he talks about how you have these couplings of people who are taken by UFOs, and they allegedly have like these alien hybrid children.
I think that is a symbolic experience of that motif. So it's not surprising that people having this Aquarian experience are seeing that.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's again, like you were talking before about these beings being made of this spiritual matter, which can pretty much be equivalent to our own matter as far as how it's able to organize itself. And that again brought me to, well, then what's the difference between that and who we are, and why aren't we then spiritual beings? But you did an explanation of that too. Anyway, there is one other thing that I was curious before the final question about astrology, and then we are going to get to the meme analysis astrological reading. And by the way, all the people in there, I've received a couple of things. I received one, but that was not fully $20, so $20 is the minimum for the astrology reading. If you can, need that super chat for the 20. And anyway, we are going to be doing that after meme analysis astrological reading. But the second to last question has to do again with, you were talking about how we end up meeting these various entities, and what is represented in Hinduism would also be represented in another place, unless I'm not understanding what you were saying there. Because I can't really imagine somebody in ancient Greece seeing Tara, with the knives and with this very, Indian type of style, to her. They would probably see something equivalent, but it would be called something else. It would look different. It would look like something they would expect it to look like.
Yes, this is what Jungian archetypes are about.
But yeah,
visuals, but those are superficial.
But then what would be the equivalent in other parts of the world to members of the... I mean, I don't want you to list all of them, but let's say if we concentrate on something like Kali and Tara, these, vengeful female archetypes that are supposed to represent this Kundalini energy. Like, the closest thing I could think of is Dionysus, but that's a dude. So...
Gorgons, Medusa, Medea, Hecate, Lilith, to name a few.
Interesting. But even there, though, now we have this sense of unequalness, because the Hindus, when they talk about Kali, they're talking about this representation of the primal force, and they view this as being the deity, the explanation for everything. But the Gorgons sort of seem like they're there, but they're not super important. Unless I'm wrong, you tell me.
They are extremely important. You also have the same physical action, the demonstrat linguum. They both do that. The icons are essentially identical, other than a few superficial differences. They are the same. There is no difference among people religiously anywhere. It's all the same everywhere.
Wow. No, that is pretty deep. I'm going to be thinking about the Medusas and Gorgons in a different way. Because you know what I think it is? I think it's like all these video games we were playing where these were lesser units. They were there, they were kind of powerful, but then when you have something that's supposed to represent time, space, that's supposed to be the big boss. Or in the case of Kali, I would have thought of her as being, the final entity that these beings would experience before they were liberated or whatever. So that's why when you were talking about the Gorgons being of that same rank, I think, wait, maybe wouldn't Zeus be higher, but no, how you're explaining is that it doesn't matter that they are this Gorgon that I would think of as being lesser than, that the Greeks did not put them in any low place. They were this representation of the same energy.
Extremely significant and a huge part of their visual art. Probably some of the most common depictions of women, perhaps at times in their history more so than Aphrodite.
All right, one other follow-up question then. We have Mahakala, which is this form of Shiva, who is big, bulky, kind of like if Shiva, I imagine almost like Pokemon. So you have little Vishnu, Krishna. You have Krishna, he's kind of like Squirtle. And then you would have Shiva. I mean, I guess it would be Vishnu, but whatever. Like a war turtle. And then you would have Mahakala, if you've ever seen a depiction of the guy. He's this big, bulky, kind of like Blastoise. He's this big, bulky, dark blue dude who is supposed to be the ultimate form of destruction. Any comparison in the Western canon with him?
Typhon.
All right, I'm going to take a look. Fine. I'm not going to get more into it right now, but I do have a final question about astrology, and then we're going to get your reading. So my final astrology question is, how, and this is for both of you guys, how connected are people to their particular fate when it comes to the aeon that they're living in, when it comes to their particular birth chart, let's say, as far as are they able to escape that particular matrix, and also what exactly determines this? Is there a hierarchy of people in terms of consciousness or whatever, where some are able to better escape that particular matrix than others? So yeah, meme analysis, go for it, then Michael, and then we're going to get the meme analysis reading.
So I've been reading this very excellent book called The Survival of the Pagan Gods, and it has a great quote from Aquinas in which he affirms the reality of astrology, but that it is, that is what we are born with. It's what we're born into. That is the bodily fate. And it's and then Christianity really takes on this liberation from astrology. That's the point in a lot of ways, is that the sins and the sinful nature are astrological, and that the overcoming of that is through Christianity. You might have noticed that I'm saying something similar about the overcoming of these human limitations in Aquarius, that this is still the goal. It's still to beat the game rather than to play by it.
Very interesting. So, Michael, any thoughts on that, escaping the matrix or whatever, or beating the game? Go for it. And then we're going to do the astrological reading.
Hold on. So there's a movie called The Courier. Have you guys seen it?
No.
So it's basically about a merchant. He was essentially just doing trade between the U.S. and Russia during, I think it was the Cold War. And he's just a regular guy just trying to do his job. And it's essentially the U.S. government, or actually, no, sorry, he's British. Yeah, so he was British, and MI6 approached him and basically said, "Can you be a spy for us since you're a merchant?" And he's like, "Hell no! Like, what are you, crazy?" And he was just trying to live his life. But he was the only one that had this role that they needed, and they kind of convinced him to become this spy. And I took the liberty of looking at his chart, and there's some key. I don't want to ruin the story, but some key moments in the plot, and I was just like, wow, this is some pretty strong fate in his chart at that time. And I think a lot of times in life, fate kind of beckons you, and it's very hard to get out of it.
Very interesting. I'm going to have to take a look at that later. And now it is time for the official meme analysis chart reading and meme analysis. Have you ever gotten your chart read before? I'm sure you have, but let me know. You have.
Yes. I will say one really great one that you should get Michael's, or I don't know yet. I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be good. But you should also get Ruby McAllister's. She's brilliant.
All right, let's see how it compares to Ruby. And once again, everybody, if you want to go after meme analysis and get yours read, then submit your super chat $20 minimum to the stream, and it shall be done. So anyway, let us open up that image over here. I think you already have it on the screen. I want to make sure I do something quick here. 1 second. Let me put that. And by the way, all the people who have not subscribed yet, subscribe right now. I mean, it is very important for the future of the stream, which brings everybody together, that you subscribe this instant. Okay, here we go. Here it is. Here is the chart. Michael, let us know what's going on here.
Well, sorry, did you hide the
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Okay, because I see it all.
I know,
anyway.
I know. You see it all. Yeah, don't worry, it's not there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of secrecy, I mean, he's got a Scorpio ascendant, right? So Scorpio is the sign of secrecy, but it's also more saliently the sign of investigation, investigation into the psyche, into psychology, into what people really mean behind the words, those kind of things. And that's not the only place you see something like that. So because he has in the second house there, he has a sun in Sagittarius conjuncting Pluto, and Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. So wherever Pluto is, you can expect depth. And the easiest way to think about Pluto, and from a psychology basis, is to think of Carl Jung and think of depth psychology, investigation of dreams. And in this case, we have a Sagittarius, so double Sagittarius there with the Sun Sagittarius conjunct Pluto Sagittarius, so doubly emphasizing this. Sagittarius is the search for meaning. So wherever you see Sagittarius, so Gemini is opposite Sagittarius, right? So Gemini is questions, Sagittarius is answers, and answers is kind of like the meaning of life, right? So we have this investigation for the meaning of life, and it's in the second house. So there's a lot of value placed on meaning here. So instead of saying something like money is the value, it's more like the meaning is the value. And that's first and foremost quite prominent in the chart. And by the way, the ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter, and we have this kind of big configuration here, where it's this moon in Virgo is sextile this Mercury in Scorpio, and they're both kind of in this what we call quincunx formation to the Jupiter here. So there's like a big arrow is pointing at this Jupiter, and the Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. So therefore, it's again, education, learning, any kind of religion, Sagittarius rules religion, anything that has to do with meaning. So it's just a lot of this Sagittarian energy in the chart, pretty strong. And something that is similar. So someone might be into looking for meaning, but keep it to themselves. But that's less the case because so down here is when you're being private, and up here is when you're being public. And we have a North Node in Leo right on top of the midheaven, which, by the way, is pretty much exactly what Tom Cruise has. So, because Leo is, if you have Leo at the midheaven, you want to be seen. Or in Tom Cruise's case, he just had this destiny, fate connected with theater, Leo being theater. So anyone with Leo in the midheaven is probably a bit theatrical in public, which is good if you want to be in public, right? You don't want to be. I mean, maybe if you're like Andrew Huberman, you might have Virgo on the midheaven, which, by the way, he does. And he's like a health guy. But anyway, so I wouldn't say though that the concepts or the speech that meme analysis is giving is easily received because we have a Mercury opposite Saturn, which has a lot to do with people pushing back, saying, giving the block. So there's more effort required, more mental effort is required in order to get those ideas across, to communicate. There's a lot of communication issue. And the solution would probably be on the order of getting the kind of the intellectual basis strong, learning, because the Sagittarius is learning. If you go to university, you are essentially having a Sagittarian experience. And another thing that jumped out as me is interesting. So the third house is communication, and again, it's also associated with learning. And in this case, so Neptune is the ruler of symbols, and Neptune and the 12th house. So the 12th house is kind of like the Neptune house, the Pisces house, and we have a Venus here. So there's a Venus in a Neptunian house, and then we have Neptune conjunct Mars, which means that the Neptune is emphasized. And both 12th house and Neptune have to do with symbols and dreams and memes. So, for example, if a chart that is just memes, I might just have a loaded 12th house. But essentially, memes are these symbols that are part of the collective consciousness. So where the word's more emphasized, then you're going to see it. So, I would kind of I wouldn't read this chart as this person is only memes and everything is memes. It's more like I think their energy is more about the curiosity for meaning and the search for knowledge, the journey, and then this kind of convenient, easy door where it's like, oh look, I also have a connection to the unconscious, so let me look into that. Another way I might actually say would be maybe artistic expression. Kind of an artistic expression here would be kind of like the way, because there's two kinds of artists. There's like the artist that's just very technical and knows how to draw, but then there's one that's maybe more, like Beethoven or something, where they have some kind of higher inspiration and they want to channel it. That's more Pisces-like, and that I think that's more prominent in this chart. So and maybe like a secondary role for him might be some type of artist that's drawing images of memes or something that is iconic, might be a good fit there. You got that moon in Virgo here. So wherever you have moon in Virgo, you can have a lot of self-criticism, or you're going to be quite critical or detail-oriented, and perhaps maybe there's a lot of like getting into the details about beliefs because it rules the ninth house. So a lot of like, actually line 34 in the Bible says this. So Most of the chart is more bigger picture, but then there's also this moon in Virgo, which is a little more detail oriented. I think because a lot of the ideas are coming from internal, with the Mars and the Neptune at the bottom of the chart, and then this North Node on top of the 10th house, like the Tom Cruise thing. So it's really about channeling the personal beliefs into the public sphere here. So there's more of in meme analysis, there's more of his personal flair is integrated into his analysis because it's coming from down here, not from up here. And what else would I say here? We are currently in Saturn is now in Pisces or early Pisces. So I think maybe starting from 2021-ish, meme analysis would have been going through a lot of personal challenges at home, with family, maybe spending more time by himself, kind of redoing the foundations of his life in some way, and kind of rethinking the roots. I think maybe recently there's been life might have gotten a bit easier in terms of being able to be more expressive and not be held back by having to redo the roots as much. Because Saturn is kind of on the end of the fourth house. And this nodal stuff is pretty cool. Because I just noticed he's got this Jupiter opposite Venus, which again has to do with the aesthetic, and very, kind of like it's like the big expression of aesthetics and art. So I would say the meaning, the investigation of the meaning of art, I think would be pretty big here. Like looking at like maybe some painting like a Da Vinci and be like, like what was going on? What was the symbolism in that piece of art? And I think that's going well, or it's coming more, it's feeling more natural, or feeling more right at this time, because the nodes are coming, south node here, north node there. So it's kind of like locking in that synchronicity on his artistic and philosophical sense. So, another way to read that is the philosophy of art, the philosophy of aesthetic. What else might I say? Going to be some interesting times ahead here for when Pluto moves into Aquarius. A lot of activation energy when Pluto comes over the Neptune and Mars conjunction. And whenever Pluto touches something, expect death and rebirth. Not an easy one, not by any means, and will pull you into a kind of a deep spiritual, kind of the monastery, if you will, into a kind of a type of meditative sense, looking inward, especially down there at the bottom of the chart like that. And definitely I think those would be big changes, because Pluto go over Neptune and then Mars and then South Node and then fourth house. So the next couple of years, pretty big in terms of shifting direction and turning the soil, if you will. And right now he's got Neptune opposing his moon, which again is a softening of the emotions. It's a softening of the inner self, and elevated dreams, elevated vision, people seeking help, him being more, what's the word? Him being more Jesus-like, those words that you might associate there, or what's the word for that? But yeah, like sacrificing yourself more, but generally being more sensitive at this time. I think I'll stop there for now.
All right, meme analysis. What say you about this?
Not bad. Not bad.
Where would you say he was the most spot on about what's going on right now with you?
I can't let people watching know too much. So Scorpio rising secrecy.
Mm.
Yeah, respect the privacy. Come on.
I wanted to get a little bit out there from you, but that's fine. You could tell in
Yeah.
private maybe. But anyway, I want to also announce something right now. I mean, for those who probably already know, that the Trump mugshot has been released. I'm going to be putting it on the screen right now for those who have not seen it yet, as well as sharing a link with you guys. And we did have our first $20 Elroy Phillips, like Elroy, like from the Jetsons. But anyway, we are going to get to that super chat right after the Trump thing, because I just wanted to mention that I wanted to get meme analysis and Michael's take on Trump as far as his astrology goes. I mean, it's kind of like out of left field, but since today is the day that he got his mugshot taken at the Fulton jail, why not? And here I'm sending it in the chat, the private chat here on StreamYard, for you guys to take a look at it if you have not done so. And I'm going to put it on the screen right now for all you guys who have not seen the mugshot as of yet. I don't know why it's not showing up here. I'm going to do one more time. But anyway, guys, WebP. My God, WebP has been the bane of my existence when it comes to editing videos. It's not a great format at all. But anyway, here, I'm going to do it one more time so you guys get this, big, beautiful Trump mugshot. But anyway, I don't know, Michael, you've done Trump's reading, right? You personally met with the guy, and I don't know, like, what exactly do you think is going on with his sign?
I haven't looked at his transit yet. I mean, his chart is crazy. Sun Uranus, Leo Ascendant, blah blah blah. Let me just put in his birth date, and I'll pull up his transits.
Sure. And once again, we are doing the live super chat astrology reading auction right now. So if you guys want to get your chart read by the great and powerful Michael Scotto, you've seen it right now. Meme Analysis has been very happy with the results. They're accurate, too accurate, so accurate that he's not even going to talk about what exactly they mean. This is why you got to submit the $20 minimum right now. You can submit more, and if you submit more, then you are going to get yours read before the other guy. So anyway, this is the Trump mugshot. I'm going to put it right over here, right next to Michael. He'll be like the parrot sitting on Michael's shoulder over here. So anyway, what do you think, Michael, of what is going on with Donald Trump? And I don't know, meme analysis. Have you looked into Trump's whatever as far as his fortune, what kind of a figure he is playing out within this aeon? Any thoughts on the guy when it comes to more?
I got it. So it's there you go. Uranus, right on his midheaven. So I mean, it's clear as day. It's clear as day.
What's clear as day?
Hold on, let me just double check because this is a little bit too. This is like too accurate. Hold on, June 14th, 1946, 10:54 a.m. Queen's Hospital. All right, so Uranus is disruption, it's upset, it's change, it's awakening, it's chaos, it's revolution, anarchy. And midheaven is public status. It's how you're known in public. It's your career, your notoriety. It's right there. And by the way, if it wasn't enough, I mean, in just a few days or weeks, I think, Uranus will be stationing. Yeah, and literally within a week. So it basically means so a station means when a planet goes retrograde. And by the way, planets that don't go backwards. They just go backwards from us looking at them in the sky. It looks like it's going this way, and it looks like it's going that way. So as a station, as they slow down and go in reverse, they're more powerful. And you would not want some planet like Uranus to station on your midheaven like this, because that's going to be overwhelming amount of anarchy, of upset, of change. So you will not get through your day-to-day the way you used to with the Uranus stationing on your midheaven like that. There are other things in the chart that are surprising, but I think I will stick with this Uranus on the midheaven. Very powerful, and we're talking within a week of accuracy here. I usually ignore Donald Trump's chart because it's just too crazy, and there's always things happening to him. But I guess this is meaningful enough to look at it.
Yeah. Well, are you predicting he'll win, he'll lose? What's going on? Is there any way to predict something like that?
I don't think. I personally don't. This is my it's hard. I get uncomfortable switching between objective and subjective because my chart is very objective. But I guess my personal view on the situation, because I was arguing with a friend, and they're like, "Oh, great, we finally got him. We put him in prison." And I said, "You're an idiot because it's not worth it." I think that there are a lot of very strong Trump fanatics that will react quite negatively to him being put in jail, and I think the repercussions, the second order effects of that, might get quite dangerous.
Interesting. Meme analysis from your analysis of the Trump meme, as it were, him playing a certain role in our Aeon. Any thoughts on that? And while you pontificate, I sent you the coordinates. What was once $12 is now $20.01. So David Wirtz is a sneaky devil. He's in the lead, followed by Elroy Phillips, of the Jetsons. So yeah, meme analysis. Any thoughts on Trump as this particular figure of our times today?
I think he's probably the best living Gemini, alongside Kanye. They're very good at being Geminoan, at being these kind of these agents of confusion and chaos. But I have to go very soon. But I'm happy to answer if we have those questions. I'd be happy to answer one before I go.
Absolutely. Well, super chat time. If you guys want to submit a super chat either to meme analysis, any questions you might have for meme analysis, or submit it for the astrology, or both. I mean, both honestly is best. But either way, I look forward to that. Michael, any final questions for meme analysis?
Less of a question, more of a suggestion. I mean, I'm a Sagittarius, so hey. So the pitfall of Sagittarius is too much answers and not enough questions, and the pitfall of Gemini is too many questions and not enough answers.
How would you take that?
I'm not sure if I have much to say about it.
It's more like an advice for Sagittarius that's always relevant.
Very interesting. So my final question has to do with what we were talking about in the beginning of the show with the Age of Aquarius splitting up. We were talking about there being like this one gendered, but what about the people who are going to go more within? Because we're talking about people who go without, who end up being stuck to a lot of technology. Maybe the whole gender thing applies to both groups. But as far as the people who go within, I don't know, who start meditating more, who start using the internet as a way to grow as opposed to a way to being attached, what exactly do you see happening with them, like beyond the gender stuff as well?
I think that largely parapsychology will be proven in this aeon. ESP and remote viewing and all of that. The people who go in are going to certainly map out the psyche and just how big and how strange it is. That would be my bet.
Very interesting. The spectral revolution may be at hand, and that's going to be a problem for people who like keeping secrets, I guess. So looking at all the government officials out there with all the things that they know. So yeah. So meme analysis, I just want to thank you once again for coming in here. This has been a very enlightening experience. I would definitely love to have you back for a live event. That is what we are going to be working towards with Gnostic Informant when he is going to be coming into New York City finally, and that shall be done. Where could the wonderful people watching this find you?
I guess on YouTube, at Meme Analysis, on TikTok at Meme Analysis, and on Instagram at Meme Analysis. And
Nice.
I guess memeintelligenceagency.com, you can pick up my deck of tarot cards. And I would say that's about it.
Excellent. And are they based on the original tarot deck, the Crowley tarot deck?
So they are a reduction of tarot simply to symbols.
Very interesting. Now, the final thing for all the meme analysis fans who are here because of the great hymn, Discord. This is the link to the Discord server. Join the Discord right now. All you freaks out there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate meme analysis. We're gonna do the super chat astrology right now, so need those super chats. Meme analysis. I bid you a wonderful rest of your day, and looking forward to seeing you soon in person in New York City.
All right, thank you.
Take care, brother. All right, so now we are going to continue on. Man, the screen is a mess. And once again, everybody who is here, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and need those $20 super chats for the astrology readings. So anyway, Michael, during this time, were you able to look up the guy David Wirtz and what David Wirtz has going on?
Yeah, I mean, I have his on the screen. Can you see?
All right, I am going to put that on the screen right now. Let me again just make sure I do not reveal anything. By the way, levslens.com, if you're wondering what exactly am I using to censor the private information, this is my Substack, so be sure to join my Substack today. You are not going to regret it. I have a lot of great articles. I have one coming up about Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin, so look out for that. Anyway, here we go. Let us know, what exactly are you seeing here, my friend?
Looks like somebody. Well, first off, we don't have the time, right? So there are certain things that I can't see, and like one of them that I'm like about is that moon in Scorpio. That would be very different if it's a moon in Libra or a moon in Scorpio. But it's drawing my attention, but I will not go to it. Well, first off, Venus and Leo, right? I mean, this is a person who really loves theater, who loves expression, who loves relationships that are more dramatic and more interesting, more colorful. Leo likes to express, right? And then we also have the Mars down here, sextile, trine the Venus, and the Mars is in Aries. So someone who has Mars in Aries likes sports, likes aggression, likes fighting, likes things that have testosterone. They like to have a friend who has this, and he plays hockey. Before that, he was climbing walls. It's someone who likes action, who likes to move. And I think the drama of the Venus and Leo, so the relationships, so maybe even the women in his life are dramatic, and that works very well with his I'm gonna take action, I'm the man, I'm action hero kind of demeanor. So moving on to the Sun in Virgo here. So Sun in Virgo is
before Sun in Virgo, I've also invited him to the stream. So, David, if you want to go on the stream right now and confirm what Michael is saying, or if you have any follow-ups, then I sent you the link, so be sure to come on in. But I also sent it to Elroy, so I'm not sure which one of you it's going to be. And by the way, Elroy, he was named after that cartoon character from Jetsons. That turned out to be the truth. But anyway.
I have a friend with the same setup, because he's a Sun in Virgo squaring the Saturn-Uranus conjunction. That's a lot of change. There's a lot of uncomfortable change, a lot of upset, a lot of instability, and maybe things not going their way quite often. But I think the positive side of it makes this person versatile. It makes this person flexible, and especially since they're a Sun in Virgo, and Virgo is a mutable sign. So So Sun in Virgo, that's the medical, that's the health, that's the being critical, the detail oriented. It really has to do. It's funny because Sun Virgo rules routines. And as somebody who goes to the gym, one of the things I always say to people is it's not really, it's not like you have to be smart or, Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything to be good in the gym. You just need to go every day. And Sun and Virgo is routines. So health is very tied to your routines. And so this person probably thinks a lot about health and thinks about their routines and how those are connected. They have this, they have a Mercury in Libra. So if you have a conversation with them, it's probably more pleasant than unpleasant, because Mercury in Libra is very kind and harmonious and diplomatic in their communication. So they're not really one to come and criticize you quite heavily and make you feel bad about yourself. They'll probably just say something quite nice. And with a Jupiter in Gemini, I think that, Jupiter in Gemini, I think that makes them quite curious. And they're always looking for data, information. Let's see. I think, they have the Neptune squaring the Mars, so that's another configuration. Watch out for the drugs and drinking and deception type of things. So maybe drinking too much with a Mars, especially in Aries squaring Neptune, or doing too many drugs, or too much escape, maybe. Too much escapism could be another way to read that. I think either way, regardless of what time they were born, they do have the moon somewhat close to Pluto, and that could be those intense emotions. And I think actually, because either way, I think the moon is close to squaring Pluto. Sorry, close to squaring Venus. And I think that would put, so I mentioned like dramatic women, I think that would make them even more difficult for him if the moon is squaring Venus like it is. So I think the relationships here might be a bit interesting, maybe a bit theatrical, or something to follow. But it could just be his art, if he does any kind of art or any kind of theater. And I think, like I said, anytime you have the birth time, you're going to get more accuracy, more specificity. We don't have that here. I would encourage you to find it if you can. And similar to Lev, who also has the same configuration with the Saturn and Uranus. I mean, it depends where it would fall on the chart at the time, but Saturn and Uranus, it's being conservative and being progressive at the same time. So it's like the progression of being conservative, or the conservative of progression.
Okay, so we got David here. David, is this all making sense? Is this correct? What do you think?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is, pretty spot on. In particular, the point about, hey, there's a possibility of like escapism, substance, alcohol. I had a real problem a couple of years ago, and actually worked with a therapist, got on naltrexone, and completely was able to, I was very fortunate. I was able to completely drop alcohol for 2 years. I did it because I was very, I felt like I was unhealthy and unhappy, and so I made a change, and I didn't drink alcohol for 2 years. Started working out a lot, and and so I think it's something that it's kind of funny how you Michael, you touched on that, because it definitely rings true. It's something that I think just in my life, it's something I have to be sort of cognizant of. And the problem is I still like alcohol, and so I decided, after 2 years of not drinking, I was like, okay, well, I solved the problems I set out to solve, but I still like drinking. I like going out with my friends. for a long time I was, you know, going to the bar, hanging out with him, and drinking like Diet Coke. And you know, I think it's one of those things where you have to, solve the problems that you're dealing with, but then realize that a life of abstinence is not necessarily the most enjoyable life. And so I still drink on occasion now. And yeah, anyways, I don't mean to go on a diatribe or delay the stream or anything, but I felt like that part of your analysis really resonated with me. It's it's great.
So the way to think of this type of configuration, which we call a square, I found the word to describe it, but most accurately is dilemma. So for me, we mentioned that I live in Hong Kong. So my dilemma was, I have a lot of friends and a lot of things going on in New York, and it's like, well, but I'm curious about Asia, right? So there wasn't really like a way, like there's not, you can't have both. I mean, I do have both. I'm on a stream with my friend from New York, from Asia, but you can't have both fully. Might be the way to think about it. And there's someone who has a dilemma, an internal dilemma. They have two parts of their personality that are like, well, I want this, but I want that, and there's not. So dilemmas are complexities, and complexities are harder to solve than simplicity, right? So, and wherever there's complexity, it adds character, because someone who so for example, the Byronic hero is a complex character that we see in films. Someone who's very intelligent, but they're an outcast, or their arrogance gets the best of them, even though they're capable, etc. So, this idea that you have like a drinking issue it's not just I have a drinking issue. It has a lot to do with some kind of internal dilemma that's coming out through that type of activity. And the way to navigate this is to well, first off, you have to accept that there is a dilemma, right? So I could not make progress on my issue until I accept like, well, yeah, I'm going to have to give some things up in order to complete the configuration. So there's probably always be a part of you that has a drinking problem, in quotes, not necessarily drinking, but some maybe escapism or something like, or the need for spirituality. And the other is to think of ways to kind of harmonize the two needs. But you can't really do much on that unless you get internal and you understand like where all that is coming from.
Yeah, no, I definitely resonate with the notion of like harmonization. I initially I thought, okay, I'm never going to drink again. But then I realized like, like my friends like to drink, my parents like to drink, and like they're able to be functional. So I realized, okay, so if I want to be able to do this and still be functional, I just have to be aware that like it can be a problem. And then just manage that and just be self-aware. Also, it's cool that I like that you're from Hong Kong. About 10 years ago, I spent 10 weeks in Hong Kong. Well, actually, not Hong Kong. I spent some time in Hong Kong and then went to Dongguan in China. I worked at a factory as an intern. But one of my favorite memories was in Hong Kong, going to Lan Kwai Fong, that area, going to the bars and just meeting all sorts of people. I met people from France and people from Spain. Hanging out at these bars. It was great.
Yeah, LKF is quite the party.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. So, David, thank you very much. You can hang out here if you want, but we are going to be going to, let's see, Elroy Phillips, named after the character from the Jetsons. So, Michael, you have his information there. Let's load it up. And I also sent him an invite, but if he's not coming, that is A-okay. Maybe he's going to come after you read it. I don't know. But yeah, you've got his info, so let's switch it up. Once again, the people who are still listening, make sure to subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff. Add a like. The likes are extremely important. They help this thing grow. All right. So also levslens.com, the Substack. Be sure to be sure to become a member of the Substack, and I would very much appreciate that. Oh, and lastly, I keep forgetting to plug the Patreon stream. We are going to have the Scientology, Secrets of Scientology stream tomorrow with Dodge Landsman and Drew Tang for patrons only. Don't miss it. Anyway, what do we got? What do we got cooking up here with Elroy?
I'm loading his chart now. Wait, what is the capital of Minnesota? St. Paul. The hell is that?
Well,
I don't know my U.S. geography. What? I've never heard this in my life. Okay, well he didn't put the city. So
wait. I think he may have sent something here. Okay. He did put it in, and I am sending it to you right now. This is just here. Just don't say what it is, but it's right here.
Okay. All right, hold on.
All right, here we go.
I don't think it makes a difference, honestly, because I don't know how big.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't make a bit of difference. That's right.
I mean, a little bit of difference. I mean, I don't know how big that state is. Anyway,
anyway, let's do it.
Wow, Mr. Aquarius. So, ooh, yeah. Okay. Well, okay. This person's a bit practical. That's good. You know, they have a grand trine in Earth, and negatively that makes them a bit boring. Positively, that means they have their shit together. I mean, it's always good to have your money and your living situation, those kind of things figured out, or at least being a reasonable person. Someone who's very earthy has grand trine in Earth means they're quite reasonable. I dated someone who has this. Very nice to date someone like that because they just have shit handled. But again, you know, very grounded. So trying to get them ungrounded, not so much. There is some Aries stuff in here because they are Aquarius ascendant, and they have a sun in Aquarius close to the ascendant, and that's conjunct Neptune. So, you know, as we were just talking about, the age of Aquarius, this is the intellectual, this is the technologist, this is the weirdo, this is the outcast. The way to think about Aquarius is you have a group of people, and say 99 people say, I like iced coffee, and one person says, no, I like hot coffee. That one person is Aquarius. It's the person who leads the group to have a unique idea to form something new, and that's why the best Aquarius are those people that are weird. Now, how weird? I don't know. Well, it could be just a little bit weird. Maybe just someone who just has like an interesting style, or it could be someone who's extremely weird, who is like founding like a commune or something. So it really depends on the individual how much they take that weird energy to its extreme or not. I mean, I wouldn't know based on the chart how weird they are. I'd say decently weird, given the fact that the sun is on top of Neptune. So I think this makes them imaginative weird.
Well, speaking of imaginative weird, is there any connection you think to them being named after this kid from the Jetsons show? Like, why would their parents give him this name based on the cartoon character? Is there any connection here?
Jetsons is the future and Aquarius is the future. You know, as we said, the age of Aquarius, it's like it's the age of technology. It's the future. Like, so Aquarius was the 11th house. The 11th house is long-term planning. So. If you, like, for example, in Hong Kong, we have a thing called Cyberport. It's like a science and technology park. That's very Aquarius. So the Jetsons is very Aquarius. And by the way, the Jetsons live in the sky and Aquarius rules the sky.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I am not seeing him come in here, so I think we're going to go to the current last person. But just so you guys know, if you submit something more than 20, you get ahead of the line. But right now, the last person here is Meme. Actually, okay, how many could you do? Just so I understand your situation right now, Michael.
Maybe a couple. By the way, I mean, I think you have my email in there, but you can email me synchronetic@gmail.com for private reading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for anyone who's not able to do it during the show, let me just say a couple more things about Elroy, I guess. I think maybe a challenge for this person is the creativity in their life. They're trying to have fun and trying to find a personal expression. Maybe they're trying to have a family. They're a little young for that, but that will become, I think, the challenge is how to have the creative expression. And this person also has Mars and Aries, so another action-oriented person, if you will, but doesn't have the drinking problem as much. Not. I think they like drugs and alcohol, but maybe they have a better relationship with it because it's not in a square configuration. It's a Neptune is conjuncting the Sun. But anyway, yeah, this person is down to fight or down for action, if you will, and quite sensitive on the relationship front. We have a Jupiter opposite Venus, quite benevolent, very generous in their relationship, and willing to kind of become the martyr, maybe the sacrifice in the relationship. Wanting to serve other people, wanting to be a practical use to other people, I think is another one for sure. And I think they are a practical use to other people with that grand trine and Earth. But they might overdo it. They might overdo it when it comes to the too much martyrdom, too much self-sacrifice for the relationship.
What was that?
I have no idea. There's some scary shit. There
Did
is
somebody,
just things moving on its own in my house.
Wait, there's not like an earthquake going on, is there, in China?
No.
You're right? Okay. All right, just making sure. Maybe these are the spirits that are kind of trying to get at you for unlocking the secrets of astrology. Anyway,
By the way, I tried numerous hours in my life to move something with my mind. It did not work. I'm very disappointed.
Now there is for now. Now there is, by the way, a gentleman who, here's the thing. He is very down on his luck at this point right now, with job wise, so it's very hard money wise, but he was born during an annual solar eclipse. And I find that to be particularly interesting. So he'll be the last guy after Meme. After Meme, he will be the last guy. No money, but you know what? He's kind of interesting. So I figured, you know what? Like let's do him a solid.
The pro bono,
yes. Exactly. The
So,
pro chas bono.
Elroy,
Unless somebody, go for Elroy.
I mean, these people that don't get on the stream, I can't have a conversation with you, but maybe he eats too much food, Mr. Elroy.
He's not gonna fit in.
Too much Instagram of the food over here.
He's not gonna fit in the Jetson spaceship. They made them for slim kids. Back in, what was that, like the 60s? Nobody was fat.
But he's pretty cool and he's pretty chill. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's good to smoke a doob with, and then go out, get the munchies, and
I would smoke a blunt with this guy and like, yo, man, have you ever thought about X? I'm like, whoa.
X. Elon Musk. X instead of Twitter. How about that? Oh, okay. Elon Musk has got to have a pretty crazy astrological alignment as well, doesn't he?
I don't think anyone knows his time. He's got everybody up in arms because it's like, what's his ascendant? I really wish I knew.
All right. Well, anyway, let us go into Meme. Yeah.
Typing it in now. I just want to briefly comment how polar my life is. Later, I'm going to a formal networking event at a business school. Very different than doing astrology on a stream. Okay. Let me add the time. 10. Oh no, 10.
Yeah.
Not saying the time.
And again, secrets of Scientology.
Oh God, actually,
tomorrow.
It's not that time. This is a very wide time that he's given us. Jesus.
Hold
on. No, that is way too far of a range, man. Like, it's not. No, like, I mean, I'll put in a time, but I can't take it too seriously. kicking me
Well,
off
I'll
5 hours.
see if Meme has any other thing that he
Nah,
wrote
it's
down
fine.
here.
I mean, but
Okay.
5 hour rage. I mean, honestly, in astrology, my teacher won't read anyone who doesn't give them a 15
Oh,
minutes
well,
accuracy.
he assumes that it's around 5 a.m.
Yeah, he assumes, but he gave a 5 hour range. That's like saying, hey, meet me at like meet me within this 5 hour range.
I don't
Assume
know,
it's-
like what can you extract from this, if anything?
don't worry about it. I mean, okay, so this person, what is with everybody in the trines?
Oh, and by the way, I'm sending him the link to StreamYard as well. Meme, I know you're watching this right now because you just commented. So go here, be present. Damn it. Okay.
Being present. Maybe this guy will get on the stream because he's got a grand trine in fire. So
All right.
I don't know what's with everyone in the grand trines. Y'all very lucky. Just want to say that. I wish I had a grand trine. I do not. So wherever there's a grand trine, life gets easy because you're lucky and there's just a lot of energy flowing through you. And in this case, he got a grand trine of fire. Fire, instead of practicality, is expression. It's it's things that are entertaining and exciting and make you feel alive. So someone who has a grand trine of fire is likely to have a very interesting life, a very colorful life. Especially, he's got the moon in Leo, he's got the Mars in Sagittarius, and Jupiter in Aries. It's a very fired up individual that just wants to, get on the stream and be like, look at me, and
I have a feeling
lot of that.
I have a feeling you're right because I just heard the beep right now. Here he is. But it says device not connected. Oh no, is technology gonna get in the way of this guy who's just like itching to go on the stream, probably throw some gamer words around? I don't know what's gonna happen, but either way.
Is this the person you said
here
was
we go.
Is this
Meme.
Hello?
Hello, Meme. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
All right.
All right. So, what do you think so far?
Right.
I'm sorry about the whole time issue, but that's about the best that I know off the top of my head. But I'm excited to hear more.
Wow. You were so are we talking about, it was you that was born on a solar eclipse or somebody else?
No, somebody else.
Okay, because this person is not born on a solar eclipse, but they're born on a full moon.
Okay. I'm not sure what that
So,
means, but
a lunar eclipse is a full moon, but like where the moon is being blocked, or whatever. But it's the same thing, or it's similar. And full moon, this person is very noticeable. Someone who's has a lot of realizations. Someone who is always coming into some kind of self-awareness or some kind of realization, and it's the peak, it's the culmination. So someone has a grand trine of fire and a full moon. I'm like, whoa, this person is noticeable, which is cool. They got this north node, so a lot of that expression stuff. I have a friend who has a grand trine of fire. I don't know where she gets her money from, but she just gets it, and she's just always traveling, and she's always saying her drama. I'm like, this person they're always on the move, very ADD type person. So because fire wants to be interesting, fire's not boring. So yeah, and especially with a full moon there as well, maybe more of like a oh, look at what I learned kind of thing. Maybe interesting thoughts, interesting intellect, because they're in Aquarius, and Aquarius is, again, we keep getting these Aquarius people today. Age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
And by the way, every time we do a stream, it's always like the same person like 3 times, and I feel like you're like trolling me. I don't understand what this is. What is going on here, guys?
And by the way, I like that Zephyr wrote over here, "Hi Mehmet." That's the first name that I thought of when you wrote Mehmet. I thought of Mehmet, so there we go. I don't know if you are from the religion of Islam or not, or if that's just a
change a couple of characters and you'll be Mehmed II, and you'll be the guy who took Constantinople. Very, very, very good name. So yeah, Aquarius, again, let's keep saying the same thing. It's about groups, it's about technology, it's about community, it's about being different. All those things, but I think this is someone who's different but has a bit of flair to them.
I also don't want to dox, but his name it has something to do biblically, like his nickname in the email.
No, it's
So,
okay if you tell
okay, so
the
it's
stream.
Azrael Sage. Now, why do you have that particular nickname?
I like the idea of psychopump in particular for whatever reason, and I know that Azrael is coming from the Jewish faith, and a lot of different associations view him as a type of psychopump.
He's
So
the angel of death.
yeah, well, death, rebirth, that kind of whole underlying issue I find intriguing.
Well, I mean, the good news is you have Pluto, the planet of death, squaring your sun. Or actually, in astrology, we call this a T-square. So you have this very fun grand trine, which makes life easy, and then you have this very difficult T-square, which makes life hard. So the challenge really, quite literally, is the planet of death. And then if we're talking about biblical stuff, you have Venus in Pisces, as we said before. Jesus is Pisces, and Pisces is exactly conjunct your North Node. North Node is the direction in life that you're heading. It's kind of like your fate point, if you will. So yeah, your fate and destiny has to do with kind of biblical, religious, spiritual type things, especially as it has to do with spiritual relationships, or if this makes any sense, spiritual money. A lot of, again, the previous person had this too, right? A lot of that self-sacrifice, martyr type of stuff, but maybe not as heavy, maybe more fate-oriented. This T square though quite difficult. And it's you're being pushed towards death and rebirth and uh, psychology and investigation, looking at the dirty things in life, looking at where nobody else wants to look, looking underneath the bed, those kind of things. And it's a full moon conjunct Pluto, so it makes it even more pronounced, if you will. I'm not going to take your birth time seriously because it's too far. But
Fair
if it
enough.
was 5 a.m., I mean, the Saturn on the ascendant is interesting. If it was, that would just mean a more structured individual, more serious individual. Yeah, I mean, I think there's I would lean on a Grand Trine and Fire. So you definitely want to live that exciting life of personal expression and not sit on your butt at home.
Okay.
And you want to go through those challenges that where you go and you make some kind of transformational change. So what's a good example might be so for example, like I think one thing that symbolizes this is surgery. I'm not saying go get surgery, but it's an experience that feels like a surgery. So
Like
yeah.
like pulling yourself apart from the inside out as far as emotions and kind of
Mhm.
rewiring how you think about things.
Professionally, emotionally,
Yeah.
psychologically, those kind of things. And I think that's the direction that you want to go. But I don't think those changes will be easy. This is
I don't think
not.
so either.
No, this is not like, oh yeah, I was A and now I'm B. It's like I was A and then there was pain and struggle and I doubted myself and I didn't know what's going to happen and then there was B.
Yeah, no. Right now, I'm in the computer science, computer security kind of field, and over the past 3 years, I've been heavily considering switching over to another career field entirely. And I'm kind of debating between psychology and possibly video game development, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, the good news is, that's a tough one because you have Venus and Pisces on the North Node, so video games is Pisces, and psychology is the Pluto. So you're quite literally picking two different sides of your chart.
Fun.
The good news is computer security, by the way, is Scorpio. So you're already in the field that is represented by this planet.
Okay.
I have a friend who is a Scorpio, and he went through a whole big career change, and he ended up going towards security after his full life analysis. So that is a valid choice, but you're not a Scorpio. I mean, you have a T square on a Pluto, and then your Venus down here, it's in Pisces, so that's gaming. but you're an Aquarius, so that's more technology than the psychology.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I'll just say it as a big jumble all together. Is there? Can you have like a psychology game?
Well, I was thinking about doing like a heavily psychology based game, so like Xenogears or something like that, similar, where it's very much so heavily taking in a lot of inspiration from psychology.
Yeah. Because I think like for example like movies, like good movies are the ones that hit those kind of universal concepts in psych.
Yeah.
And I think if you could do that, I think the same concept applies in games, right? So I think yeah.
Okay.
Especially, by the way, if the game is like a kind of, do they call it MMORPG, like where it's a lot of like online players together because you're an Aquarius. So anything that's like has a social component, a gaming component, and a psychology component together.
Yeah, I would have to probably. Well, I don't really play too many MMOs myself, sadly enough. So that's probably outside of my own understanding to be able to properly design for.
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a tough one. I can't. I don't know if I would put you as a psychologist or not. I think
That's fair enough.
you might be too fun to be a psychologist. You might be a bit too selfish to be. I'm not like.
I don't get that type of vibes from myself, but
Well, when I say there is a sacrificial element here, but I'm not sure if it's like pronounced enough. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause therapy can be quite sacrificial, right? Because you're sitting with clients all day, and you're like, "Oh, I'm so sad. Woe is me," and you're like, what about me?" You know, so there's a lot of you that's trying to come out in this chart. So I'm not so sure.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like that's where my doubts are. But I think you have to find a way to combine these elements that you're talking about. Yeah. Like maybe, and you're an Aquarius, so you'll find something that's a bit more innovative, I think.
Okay.
Rather than don't go the traditional route. So don't do traditional psych or traditional computer science or whatever it is. Try and find something that's a little bit more on the edge and combines your interest. And I think that you'll find more satisfaction there would be my kind of general advice.
Yeah. Well, that's what I did with computer science and computer security is I went out to the edge there just because I was originally computer science and then into computer security. So I'm already naturally moving that way.
And by the way, if you did something before and now you want to change it, it doesn't mean you weren't successful before. It's more like you can do the same thing just in a different way because you're at a different stage of life.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Same general.
So it's yeah. So like before you did something on the edge and it worked for however long, and now you do again something on the edge and it works for however long. It's not success does not mean you found the thing and you just stay with it for like 40 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, there we are with Mehmet. And now we are going to conclude with the great Pancho Villa. This is our pro Chaz Bono moment here with the reading. Michael, you've got it there in the messenger, so let us know. And I know you said, Pancho, you don't want to do it, but we've got no more right now. This is the final one, and I thought, you know what? Let's do a good deed. You seem like you've been through hard times here. I don't know, Michael, if that's going to reflect. And we do have the birth time here, too, so this should be pretty accurate. So let's find out what the life of somebody born under a solar eclipse is like. And by the way, you are welcome to come in as well. I think I sent you the thing, but let me check if I did not. So yeah, and again, everybody who is watching this, be sure to subscribe, like, hit the bell, all that good stuff. So there we are, and also patreon.com/breaktherules. Be sure to become a patron, and tomorrow is going to be the Scientology stream talking about my friend who was kicked out of his job as a reporter. He was like one of those TV anchors who was kicked out for doing a report about Scientology. about the death of Lisa Marie Presley, who wanted to bring certain things to light as far as certain nefariousness that was going on there in the church. So he's going to be talking about that, and Drew Tang is joining to talk about L. Ron Hubbard and his connection to Aleister Crowley and the occult. Anyway, Michael, let's go. We got the thing.
Okay, so hold on. Before I get into maybe I'll go backwards here because he's asking about having a tough time right now. Is that?
I wouldn't say he's asking. That's just what I inferred from his situation with not being able to do the super chat at the moment.
Yeah. So I think possibly where the pain is coming from is so I'm gonna focus on his transits, not on his natal chart. You got to see this Neptune says 26, and then you see the Uranus and Saturn says 26. So, like I said, a square is a dilemma, it's a crisis, it's a turning point, and and the two planets involved, Neptune, has to do with confusion, deception, spirituality, things that are vague, things that are open-ended. Not being more watery, if you will, and it's squaring the Saturn, which is the structure and the foundation. The structure and foundation, and kind of like where someone finds a security in their life. So there's probably they're feeling undermined in the security in their life, and they don't know they probably don't really know what their direction is right now. And that's probably what's causing a lot of stress there. And I think it will be, if I had to guess, maybe like a year or so before it's done. I'll say it's done maybe around March 2024. So maybe like 6 months of it. The other thing is the Saturn here is squaring Jupiter, and that means that there's some restriction in terms of their ability to be optimistic. Their beliefs are being tested in a way that's a bit difficult. And what else? Yeah, I think the Neptune is probably the hardest one. It's one that jumps out to me, which is good in that it's not the worst thing. I mean, it's not an easy thing, but it's not the worst thing. And like I said, there's the 6 months from now, I think that it will ease up a bit. Yeah, okay. And then in terms of the natal chart, being born on eclipse, I don't know. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Donald Trump was born on a lunar eclipse, not a solar eclipse. But of the two eclipses, I'd rather be born on a solar eclipse rather than a lunar eclipse, because the solar eclipse is the beginning of something, it's not the end of something. And Donald Trump is born in a lunar eclipse. So the good news is, if you are born in an eclipse, you could be quite famous. But I do think that someone who is born in an eclipse has certainly less control of their life than someone who's not born in an eclipse, because those eclipses are major turning points, and you're born at a major turning point, and you're born at a major turning point in Virgo, and Virgo has to do with work, health, and routines, like I mentioned before. So there's a lot of emphasis on getting a job in this chart, because Virgo is your job. And by the way, it's kind of in a wide square to the Saturn Uranus here, not tight square, which is good. If it's tighter, it'd be harder. But there is a bit of blockage throughout life that you have to work harder for this. I mean, someone who has a lot of Virgo has to work really hard anyway, but they have Sun in Virgo and Moon in Virgo. A lot of anxiety with that. A lot of worrying with this chart, especially born on eclipse. It feels like things are coming at you from left field all the time. Things are, you feel maybe blind throughout life is one way to describe it. And but I think maybe this person, especially born on a new moon like that, this person is supposed to invent things. They're supposed to begin things. They're supposed to initiate. They're supposed to take something from beginning, stage 1 to stage 2 in their life, from 0 to 1. And being a first mover is not easy because it has to be you who does it first. But there's some supportive planets here, Mars and Aries, so initiation there. That strong initiation energy, and then also the Mercury opposite Mars, so quite an active mind, maybe fighting with people a little bit too much, and trying to smooth things over diplomatically. I think this person will work a lot, and if they're not working, they might feel not so great right now. But I do think that those structures in their life will clear up maybe 6 months from now. Let me check again. Once Neptune gets off that square. Oh, but then Saturn is opposing the moon. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a period of confusion and disorientation followed by lots of hard work to get back on the feet. That's the way I would put it. But the hard work is not necessarily bad. For example, I personally have a Saturn transit to a planet in my chart right now, and my life is very stressful because I'm on an astrology stream right now. I'm going to business school in a foreign country. I'm also working. So that's the experience of Saturn. You're working a lot. You have a lot of weight to carry, but you're not just like mindlessly suffering, which I think maybe Neptune is more that way. Neptune doesn't have an agenda. It's just like, oh, let's just give you some suffering. So you just lay around and cry all day. So not as practical, not as grounded as an experience. Where Saturn opposing, following that, which that is basically in play for him starting from right after that Neptune clears, then Saturn comes into play. So I feel like the confusion will clear. Maybe he'll get like a job or something, and he'll get some responsibility, and his life will move from being confused and disoriented, like, oh man, I have all this work I have to do. And then that period will last another year, but maybe he'll be more motivated to do it because he just was sitting around feeling confused and depressed, and now, or get confused and not knowing what's next. But now he knows what's next, but he's really got to hustle to make it work. But I think that's less debilitating. It's more stressful, but less debilitating.
He says also in the chat, I've been living a life of banality and stagnation. The world isn't worth it. And then he says, I am Year of the Dragon 2024.
Banality and what?
Banality and stagnation.
Yeah, that's like I said. I said disorientation. He doesn't know what the fuck is next.
What would be your advice for him?
Well, first off is maybe right now don't be so hard on yourself about the fact that you don't know what's next or what's going on. So take the time to think of your life more in metaphysical terms. Some people call that spirituality. You could just think about it. Another way to think about it might just be the way of cause and effect. Think about what is existence, these kind of things. And if you're living a life of banality, it's a good time to think and meditate. Meditation and thinking are very like close to each other.
Mm.
Think about the meaning of your life and what you want out of it, because I do think next year you'll be either working or trying to work and putting a lot of effort, and you're not going to be able to put that effort with some kind of motivation, and motivation comes from more of a metaphysical place rather than a physical place.
Well, he wrote down, "Man is reading into my soul. Great job." How's that for a endorsement?
That's what we do here at the Astrology stream.
Yes, exactly. This is what the 4th astrology stream, 3rd, I don't remember. But either way, it's always a blast having Michael Scotto here. This time all the way from Hong Kong. Your day's beginning. My day is ending today. I'm going to bed after this. But you are in the hustle and bustle and meeting a lot of cute girls and stuff like that. It's a nice, right? It's like it's pretty good place for girls, right?
I think I might have met one already, but it's going quite well.
That's good. Yeah. You would recommend
One is enough.
You would recommend for young men who are in the United States right now, who aren't really seeing good things relationship-wise, for, I don't know, whatever reasons, maybe they just aren't liking the energy. Would you recommend them to go to Hong Kong?
I would not recommend, because I don't want competition. This is my place. Get out of here.
I thought you said one is enough. I thought you said one is enough.
I might need backup.
All right. Well, that being said, you heard the man. Stay out of his turf. But guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And again, big thank you to Meme Analysis for being here, for talking. Very interesting dude. Any thoughts, final thoughts on the conversation, what Meme Analysis was talking about, and then we are going to go.
Interesting chemistry between me and Meme Analysis, us both being Sagittarius and both having strong opinions, but different strong opinions. That part was funny. Opinions in the other direction. He seems quite a self-assured fellow.
Indeed.
Like I said, anyone want a private reading, email me synchronetic@gmail.com.
That is in the description as well. Go in the description, you'll find his email. And again, tomorrow, guys, the Break the Rules Patreon only stream about Scientology, secrets of Scientology. We're laying it all on the table for you. The volcano, Xenu, all that good stuff. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter at Lev Po. Go subscribe to the Substack. And that's it. And also Discord. Join the Discord server. Anyway, guys, take care. I love you.